Hari Om. While relishing Abhijnana Sakuntalam, the best ever, literary composition from Indian poets. I won't say only Sanskrit, but before that I would like to start with an invocation, first to Saraswati, then to Badarayana Vyasa, and then to Kalidasa. Surasura Sevita Pada Pankaja Kare Virajat Kamaniya Pustaka Virinchi Patni Kamala Sanasthita Saraswati Nrityatu Vachi Me Sada. For Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, why? Because this Shakuntalam has been derived, the sourced at Mahabharata. Mahabharata written by Vyasa, of course. Achatur Vadano Brahma. How Vyasa is described? He is as good as Brahma, but not having four faces. Achatur Vadano Brahma, Dvibahuhu Aparo Harihi. Hari, Narayana, is Chaturbhuja, but here is Vyasa, who is Dvibahuhu, but he is another Hari only. Abhala Lochano Shambhuhu. He has only two eyes like us, and no Bhalalochana, the Tritiya Netra, like the Trinetra Shambhu, but he is Bhagavan Badarayanaha. Abhalalochano Shambhu, Bhagavan Badarayanaha. There is a very famous poet, not so glorified as Bhasa Bhavabhuti Kalidasa, a poet called Bhattanarayana, and he composed only one Nataka called Veni Samharam. In that, he has paid a very glowing tribute to Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. He says in the first act, Shravananjali Putapeyam Virachitavan Bharatakhyam Amritam Yaha. Shravananjali Putapeyam. Anjali Putapeyam, something which you drink from your palms. Anjali Putapeyam. Your Shravana becomes the Anjali. It holds that. What is that? Bharatakhyam Amritam Yaha Virachitavan Tam Aragam Akrishnam Krishna Dvaipayanam Vande. I salute that Krishna Dvaipayana, that dark sage who was born on a dweep, on an island, who is aragam, free from passion, free from raga, attachment, and akrishnam, free from any dark qualities, any malice, right? Any vices. So, aragam, akrishnam, Krishna Dvaipayanam Vande. Now, we are doing this Shakuntala. Aurobindo once had said, I don't know exactly when and where, but I have been hearing this quotation for a long time. A true Indian, if he wants to claim himself as an Indian, boast of being an Indian, he has to know Vyasa, Valmiki and Kalidasa. If you don't know Valmiki, Vyasa and Kalidasa, you are not a true Indian, right? So that is the glory of Kalidasa. And when we say, Kavyeshu Natakam Ramyam, Tatra Ramya Shakuntala, Tatra Apicha Chaturtho Ankaha, Tatra Shloka Chatushtayam. In all the literary compositions which are broadly termed as Kavya in Sanskrit, Kavya is not necessarily versified composition like Kavita or verses, it is derived from root kava, ku kava, kavate, that is to compose. And therefore, any composition is called Kavya. And therefore, in Sanskrit, Kavya is a very generic term for literary composition. Then it could be divided into Gadya, Padya, Mishra, right? It could be divided into Drishya and Shravya. Drishya Kavya is a Nataka. In Nataka, we have 10 types of Rupakas. Nataka is a type of Rupaka. Nataka is a type of a Rupaka. Rupaka is a visual drama, visual Kavya, that which we can see on the stage being enacted. That is Drishya Kavya. There are 10 types. Even the Vithi, Prahasana, Bhana, these are also, Anka, Vyayoga, these are all Ekanka, the one act, mono act plays also are one of the Rupakas. Nataka is a special category. So, Kavyeshu Natakam Ramyam. So, this was Drishya Kavya. In the Shravya Kavya, there will be the Mahakavya, there will be the Khanda Kavya. The Khanda Kavya again will have a division, like they are the romantic Kavya, the erotic poems, or the religious poems like Stotras. So, there are so many varieties. We are not going into the taxonomy and the categories and the tree of the composition, literary composition. But in all these, Natakam Ramyam. Kavyeshu Natakam Ramyam. In the Natakas, Tatra Ramya Shakuntala. Shakuntala, Shakuntalam. Abhijnana Sakuntalam is Ramya in that. Tatrapicha, in the Shakuntala, it is the fourth act which is the most appreciated, most loved by both the critics and the lay people like you and me. And Tatra Shloka Chatushtayam. So we are, focusing on the 4 shlokas. When we come to the 4th act, obviously we will focus on the 4, the great shlokas which are acclaimed by the critics and the layman alike as the best by Kalidasa's pen. Okay. So Tatra Ramya Shakuntala. Now this Shakuntala, Abhijnana Sakuntalam. If you have seen the flyer of this Abhijnana Sakuntalam, there is a signet ring. In the ring, there is the scene of the 4th act. Kanuma Muni is there, and there is Shakuntala, and Shakuntala's Aanchal, it is being dragged. Her pallu is being dragged by the deer. The deer, the bee, the trees and the creepers, all these have a special significance in Shakuntala. The nature is as if a living character of this drama. It is not only Dushyanta, Shakuntala and other people, the human beings who are furthering the plot. All these birds, even the insect like a bee, that also helps in furthering the plot or development of the plot. So this is something different. How nature plays a very important role. Now this entire flyer was designed by one of our Chinmaya Vishwavidyapith students called Vinamra. Very creatively, she created this flyer with a signet ring, because that is something which distinguishes Kalidasa from the main source of the story, which has been taken from the Mahabharata. So we will talk about the story as well. Now the story part, does it occur only in the Mahabharata? And why Mahabharata? We have to borrow the story from Mahabharata. The epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata have been the perpetual, eternal storehouse of stories, and they have been providing, catering to all the later poets for their dramas, for their poems, for their champu kavyas, for their ballads, for every art creation, be it literary art, performing art or any other thing. And therefore, especially for the Mahabharata, it is stated by Vyasa himself in the Mahabharata, Sarvesham Kavimukhyanam Upajivyo Bhavishyati. Sarvesham Kavimukhyanam Upajivyo Bhavishyati Parjanya iva bhutanam akshayo bharatadrumaha. As Parjanya, rain god, is, upajivyo bhavishyati, we all subsist, we all live on Parjanya. If it doesn't rain, there won't be any crops, there won't be any grains, and how will we live? And therefore Parjanya is upajivya for all of us. Similarly, Bharatadrumaha, this tree in the form of Bharata, Mahabharata, is Kavimukhyanam upajivyaha bhavishyati. This will become the upajivya grantha for all the poets. Naturally, Kalidasa has drawn the inspiration from Mahabharata. And if we look at Mahabharata story, it occurs in the Adi Parva, Adi Parva of the Mahabharata. In the Gita Press Gorakhpur edition, it is chapter 68 to 100. It is some 588 verses, not 100, I think it is 74 or 70, some 3-4 chapters, and almost 500 verses are there, 500-600 verses. So that gives you the skeleton of this drama. In the critical edition by Gauri, these chapters are from 63 to 68. Okay, the critical edition chapters number vary because the critical editors have decided on certain chapters as interpolated and they have cut it and all that. So critical edition doesn't even have Shatasahasri Samhita we call. No, there are 1 lakh verses. Critical edition doesn't contain so many verses. There are not 100,000 verses in critical edition. There are some 89,000 and plus. But the Gita Press Gorakhpur will have all that, and normally people have an access to Gita Press. It's very cheap. You can buy and keep it in your house. Although people say Mahabharat ghar mein nahi rakhte hai, then because there will become Mahabharata in the house, but no harm in keeping Mahabharata. We keep Bhagavad Gita. Do we fight all the time? Though it's a war manual, right? So that is what, so Mahabharata provides the source. Now what is the story part like? Most of us know the story of Shakuntala, and especially the ring. That's why signet ring of Dushyanta is very, very important. That also plays a very vital role. An inanimate thing like ring also plays a very vital role in Abhijnana Sakuntala. Abhijnana, recognition. Abhitaha, jnanam. From all sides there is knowledge. So the knowledge gets confirmed. Okay, recognition. Cognizing something and recognizing the same. Okay, punah pratyaya, that is called Abhijnana. So this Abhijnana of Shakuntala happens because of the ring, and therefore ring plays a very vital role. There is one more Abhijnana, it comes in the 7th act, and that is the Abhijnana when Dushyanta understands and cognizes that Sarvadamana, who is playing with the cub of lion, is none other but his own Tanaya, his own son. So that Abhijnana also happens step by step, not in a go, not like that. Step by step the recognition happens. That is also very, very interesting. So Abhijnana Sakuntalam, the title is very, very significant, more than significant, because there are 2 Abhijnanas, one of Shakuntala and one of Sarvadamana Bharata. Of course, the play hovers around and plays around Shakuntala's recognition, and that's why that ring that is there. Now let us go to the story part from the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, the story goes like this, that Dushyanta has gone out for Akheta, for hunting, with all his retinue, with his Purohita and Senapati and so many of the soldiers in all royal attire he has left out. And then, he becomes very thirsty when they are in the deep forest. He becomes very thirsty and he is looking for water here and there, and somebody tells that there is a river flowing nearby at the outskirts of the jungle, that is the Malini river. In the Mahabharata also it is Malini river. And therefore they start going there. And then across the Malini river, he happens to see a very quiet type of ashrama, hermitage. And then he says, in the ashrama, if the entire retinue comes in, the ashrama life gets disrupted. They will be disturbed. And in order not to disturb the calmness and the quietude, the serenity of the ashrama, he asks his army to to camp on the banks of Malini, and he alone goes in the ashrama. for water. Okay? And there he sees Shakuntala watering the plants. He is enamored by her beauty. Okay? And the very first moment when he sees her, he says, Kahatvam kasyasi kimartham chagatavanam. He doesn't even envisage that she is staying in the ashrama. He is asking her, Kahatvam kasyasi. Who do you belong to? Why have you come here to this forest? Darshana devahi shubhe tvaya me aparitam manaha. By you, my mind has been captivated by your very first sight. So it was love at first sight for Dushyanta. Darshana devahi shubhe tvaya me aparitam manaha. And he doesn't stop at that. He says, Vrune tva madhya sushroni. I want to ask you your hand in marriage for me. Let us get married by Gandharva Vivaha. Now before that she says, no, I am Paratantra. I am Paratantra because my father Kanava, he takes all decisions on behalf of me. So I am not independent to take my own decision. And my father has gone, Gatah Pita me Bhagavan, Falanyahartum ashramat, Muhurtam Sampratikshasva, Drashtasyenam Upagatam. This comes in the 71st chapter. My father Kanava has gone to fetch some fruits. Please mark what Vyasa has given in the Mahabharata story and what Kalidasa improvises and why Kanava is away from the ashrama when Dushyanta enters that. There is lot of difference and that is so very thoughtfully incorporated by Kalidasa. That's why he is called Mahakavi, right? For Kalidasa it has been stated, like his Vani, one of the commentators on Shakuntala itself, there are some 40 plus Sanskrit commentaries. On Shakuntala itself, there are 40 plus Sanskrit commentaries. One of the commentators called Sri Krishna, he is the Tikakara, he praises Kalidasa and that's a very glowing praise of Kalidasa, I must say. Asprishta dosha nalini vadrishta हारावली वग्रथिता गुणोद्यैः प्रियांकपाली व विमर्द हृद्या न कालिदासात् अपरस्य वाणी. I will repeat if you want to write. अस्पृष्ट दोषा नलिनी इव दृष्टा. अस्पृष्ट दोषा नलिनी इव. His Vani, Kalidasasya Vani, is like Nalini, like Kamalini, the lotus creeper. How it is? Asprishta dosha, not touched by even the slightest of kavya dosha. No doshas, no poetic fallacies in Kalidasa's language. It's all so very clear and so very nirmala. There is no malinya, there is no dosha. Asprishta dosha, not even touched by dosha. Now here there is an upama, right? And this upama is shlishta-upama, like a samasokti. Shlishta upama. Nalini is a kamalini. For her, the meaning of dosha is something different. And what is that? Dosha also means night, ratrihi. Dosha means ratrihi. Because all bad things are done during the night. The stealing, etc., the thieves, they are very professionally operative and engaged in their duties during night only, when everybody else is sleeping. And therefore the dark activities are done in the darkness. And therefore anything which is dark is bad. Anything which is bright and white is always pure. And therefore the white color is suggestive of purity and the dark color is suggestive of impurity. So dosha here, night. Asprishta dosha nalini. The Nalini, which is not touched by the night, that means the Nalini or the Kamala, they shut down their petals when the sun sets. They are Surya Vikasi Kamalas, right? Padmas, and therefore they will bloom only when there are the rays of the sun. Right? Only when there are the rays of the sun, then only the Kamalas will blossom. Otherwise, ha hanta hanta nalinim gaja ujjahara, right? So, the Nalini is not touched by the night because she withdraws. The Kamalini withdraws. So, asprishta dosha Nalini vadrishta haravaliva grathita gunodhyaihi. His poetry, his speech, Kalidasasya Vani, haravali iva grathita. It is woven, it is embedded with gunas. With gunas, kavya gunas. The kavya gunas are there, oja and saundarya, madhurya, prasada, so many. Vishwanatha talks about 24 gunas, Mammata talks about 3 gunas. So, gunodhyaihi grathita. Now, there is a simile for that, haravali iva. Haravali, a necklace, a garland. As the hara is, the grathita with what? The sutra, guna. There is a pun on the word guna. Guna means virtues. Guna also means a thread. You require a thread to weave and to embed all the manis or all the flowers. If it's a garland, it's flowers. If it is a necklace, the gems and the manis, So, haravaliva grathita gunodhyaihi sutre manigana iva. Right? As a sutra is required to have all the manis in one place, similarly, his Vani is full of gunas, the poetic qualities, and that too with appropriateness. Auchitya is one of the sampradayas given by Kshemendra. There are so many theories of literary criticism. We shall take those into accounts as and when required for rasasvada of the shlokas, but auchitya, appropriateness or propriety, that is like a overarching principle. You may have rasa, you may have alankara, you may have dhvani and vakrokti, riti and what not, but if it is anuchita, sab gaya, and therefore it has to be very uchita. So, haravaliva grathita gunodhyaihi priyanka paliva vimardha hridya. His Vani is vimardha hridya. It becomes more charming, hridya, touching your heart. Touching your heart. Very charming, very relishable. You can savor, revel in the Vani of Kalidasa. The more and more you study, the more and more you analyze. Vimardana karna, rubbing it, doing the thing again and again, abhyasa. Vimardha hridya, it becomes very, very relishable the more and more you talk about it. Like what? Priyanka pali iva. Like the Ankapali is the uru, the thighs of Priya. The more they are rubbed, this comes in the Kamashastra as well. There is the uru samvahana kriya, like a pada samvahana kriya. This is massaging of the foot, massaging of the thighs. The more massage you do, the more mardana you do with oil and all, it becomes softer and softer and more enjoyable. Similarly, his Vani is Priyanka Paliva Vimardha Hridya na Kalidasad Aparasya Vani. There is no Vani other than Kalidasa which fits into these three. Asprishta dosha, then Grathita Gunodhyaihi and Vimardha Hridya. These are the three qualities Sri Krishna has talked about while commenting on Shakuntala. Okay. Now coming back to the story, why I am quoting this? Because the very unromantic and unattractive plot, vastu, given in the Mahabharata by Vyasa has been transformed into a very relishable gem. How much relishable? You all have heard about Goethe, right? Johann Falcon von Goethe. We call him Goethe. He was a German scholar, 18th century scholar. He said, Eki bhutam apurvam athava, Eki bhutam apurvam athava, Eki bhutam abhuta purvam athava, Svarloka bhuloka yoho. If Svarloka and Bhuloka you want to see united, Eki bhutam, abhuta purvam. This is something very, very unusual. You have not seen it ever. If ever you want to envisage the union of Svarloka and Bhuloka, Aishwaryam yadi vanchasi priyasakhe Shakuntalam sevyatam. If you want to see and enjoy the glory of the union of the heaven and the earth, oh my friend, you just have to turn the pages of Shakuntala and relish it. So Shakuntala, I think already Ridya has given some 3 English editions. This is by R.D. Karmarkar. One is by A.B. Gajendra Gadkar, who happened to be the guru and senior peer of R.D. Karmarkar. And the third is a very, very student-friendly Moreshwar Kale, M.R. Kale, Moreshwar Ramchandra Kale. He has edited almost all the Sanskrit plays into student-friendly editions. Plus there are some Chaukhamba editions, some Hindi translations. For Marathi, now we have lost that Marathi translation. Those of you who want to have the Marathi one, there is one called Rasham Valimbe. Valimbe has translated into Marathi. It is not available now. But in Pune, in Sadashivpet, Appa Balwant Chowk, there is one Bhagvat bookstore for those who really want to get the Marathi copy. So Bhagvat Book Depot in ABC, that is Appa Balwant Chowk in Pune, and he gets the Xerox copy of the Marathi, binds it, and he will deliver it, post it wherever you want to. Okay. So I have given you the address, Bhagvat Book Depot, Appa Balwanta Chowk, Sadashivpet, Pune. The pin code you will have to find out, I don't remember it now. But then he does share the Marathi copies if you want to. So in Hindi, Marathi and English there are many. The first translation, English translation, was done as early as 1789, 18th century. 1789 by William Jones. The first ever English translation, and that is not the first ever English translation of only Shakuntala. It was the first Sanskrit drama being translated into any European language. 1789, William Jones translated Shakuntala, and that was the first Sanskrit drama to get translated into any European language. So this is the what you can say, the history, geography, and so many editions and recensions and books on Mahabharata, on the Abhijnana Sakuntala. Now when he addresses her, see, this is what Mahabharata says, what Vyasa's say, Vyasa's Shakuntala says is, Gatah pita me Bhagavan Phalanyaharatum ashramat. He has stepped out of the ashrama to get some fruits, to fetch some fruits. Now you tell me, person going out of the ashrama for getting fruits, how much time is required for him to return? Even if you go to a market, you will come back in an hour, in 2 hours, right? Just imagine that he has gone out to fetch fruits. I am not commenting anything. When we'll read Shakuntala, you yourself will notice what change Kalidasa has brought in. He has also sent out Kanava, because the first, what you can say, the meeting of Dushyanta and Shakuntala happens in the absence of Kanava. That is there. But the reason for which Kanva has gone out is very, very different in Abhijnana Sakuntalam. Wait till we read it, or you can read it beforehand. So, Muhurtam Sampratikshasva. Muhurta is not just a minute, 2 hours. Muhurtam Sampratikshasva Drashtasyenam Upagatam. You will soon see him after 2 hours. But then Dushyanta is very, what you can say, not ready to wait. He becomes impatient because he is so captivated by her beauty that how beautiful she is, again you will have to read Kalidasa. And then when he says, Sarasija Manuviddham Shaivalena Api Ramyam, etc. So you will have to wait till Kalidasa's first act comes. And then she says, no, even if Dushyanta offers to marry her, and before that, he is not sure whether she is Kanva's daughter. How could she be Kanva's daughter? Kanva is a sannyasi. He is running a Gurukula. How could Shakuntala be his daughter? And therefore he asks her, how come you are the daughter of Kanva? Kanva Duhita, how can you explain it to me? And she herself narrates the account of her birth as she has heard Kanva narrating it to some other sages. For a girl to, a young, beautiful girl to tell the account of her birth so flatly, it is not being stated by some other people. It is she herself, That is also very strange for any Sanskrit, any heroine of a Sanskrit drama, okay. And then she says, Kanavasyaham duhita mata hasati. Smilingly she is saying, Kanavasyaham duhita, and therefore you seek his permission before you want to marry me, asvatantra asmi. That's how she says. And then he says, Katham tvam tasya duhita. He asks her, Katham tvam tasya duhita, and Shakuntala tells her birth account as she has heard Kanava telling it to some other seers, okay. And that goes the story, how Kanava narrates that story, that Vishwamitra was practicing a penance and Indra was scared because of his tapas samarthya, and therefore he calls a meeting, and in that he calls Menaka and asks her to do the tapobhanga of Vishwamitra. How Menaka is afraid, very apprehensive, because she has heard of Vishwamitra's samarthya, he is the one who can create another world for Trishanku, right, in the Antariksha. So he is such a very powerful and Shighrakopi Rishi. How dare I approach him? So she is little bit apprehensive. At the same time she says, I can't disobey my master, that is Indra. So there has to be, I need help from somebody. And what is that somebody? Who are the somebody? Then she says, Vayu Devata, I want a help, because when I'm going and dancing and trying to enamor Vishwamitra, Vayu Deva should come there, help me in removing my garment so that he would be able to see her without clothes. So Vayudeva has to help her, and then Kamadeva also, she seeks his help. She will put on all her charms and try to enamor the sage, but she seeks the help of Vayudeva and Kamadeva, and Indra sends them all. So equipped with Kamadeva and Vayudeva, she comes and starts dancing in the, all that story, Shakuntala is telling to Dushyanta. All this description, there are some 30-40 verses about that, and all that she is telling. And then Vishwamitra got captivated by her charm when he saw her without clothes and this and that, and then they stayed together, and all his tapas samarthya was washed off because he fell for the beauty of Menaka. And then he lived like a common grahastha, and after giving birth, so many days they enjoyed like that. And then after giving birth to Shakuntala, Menaka, she just dropped her there, and by that time Vishwamitra realized his folly and he went to do the tapas. Menaka also left, and this child was there in the midst of the forest, and it was brought up, nourished by the birds. Shakunta. Shakunta are the birds. So Shakuntaihi or Shakuntan lati rakshakatvena grinhati iti Shakuntala. Shakuntan lati nama grinhati, she accepts Shakunta, the birds, as her protectors, as her guardians, and therefore Shakuntala. Shakuntan lati rakshakatvena grinhati iti Shakuntala. And why Shakunta? Shakunta means bird. It is from root shaka. Utpatitum shaknoti iti Shakuntaha. That which is able to fly is called Shakunta. That is a bird. It is shaka. The root is shaka. Yaska. I refer to Yaska etymology. Those who have been attending Ola classes, they all know how fascinated I am with the Nirukta. So this is Tatra Namani Akhyata. All the names in Sanskrit are derived from some or the other root, if not directly, indirectly, but they are derived from the root. So Shaknotehe Shakuntaha. And then he hears that story and puts the proposal of Gandharva Vivaha. Now he knows for certain that she is not a Brahmana Kanya. She is a Kshatriya Kanya, because Vishwamitra Gadhiraja, the Bhargava, he was a Kshatriya, and therefore she is Kshatriya Kanya. And he puts up a proposal to marry him by Gandharva Vivaha, because that is the best sought after Vivaha by all the Kshatriyas. And then she is ready. See, she becomes ready, but she puts a condition. She puts a condition, very calculative, very practical Shakuntala of Vyasa Maharshi. She puts a condition, Mayi jayeta yah putraha. Mayi jayeta yah putraha sabhavet tvadanantaraha yuvarajaha. After you, he should become the Yuvaraja of your kingdom. The kings in olden days, Bahurajanaha, Bahuvallabhaha Rajanaha iti Shruyate, Anasuya also says in Shakuntala. The kings were much married people, they had many wives. So she puts a condition, if the son born from her gets the Yuvaraja Pada, then only she will marry him. So this is a contractual wedding. And she is so practical. It is not only love which pushes her into the marriage, in the wedlock. It is the practicality of the whole thing. So, Mayi jayeta yah putraha sabhavet tvadanantaraha yuvarajaha. And Dushyanta says, yes, all my kingdom I keep it at your feet, and I want to marry you. And then he marries, the marriage gets consummated, and he stays with her for few hours, and then he leaves before Kanava appears. Now just imagine, Kanava has gone out to fetch the fruits. How much time he would require. But he doesn't wait, and doesn't wait to pay his gratitude and his homage to Guru Kanava, All the Gurukulas were maintained by the kings earlier times. But he doesn't even wait for that, because he is afraid of Kanava. He is very apprehensive what Kanava will think and what Kanava will speak. He might curse. And afraid of Kanava, he leaves from that place very hurriedly by doing the Garbhadhana after the marriage. So the marriage gets consummated and he leaves, and he says before leaving, Preshayishye tavarthaya vahinim chaturanginim. I will send the Chaturanga Sena to escort you back to my kingdom once I go back. Which never does. Once I go back, I will send my Chaturanga Sainya to escort you. But he never did it, and he left before Kanava appeared, or Kanava came there. Okay. After that, Kanava comes. In a while, after Dushyanta leaves, Kanava comes, and his Antarjnana, it is the description, she is Lajjavanata-mukhi, Shakuntala, because she had made a mistake in the sense she has not consulted her father, she has not waited to seek his permission, and before that she fell a prey to her bodily vasanas and all that. So she is little bit shy, she is ashamed of her own act, and therefore, sar jhuka ke, she has been doing the daily course and all that. But Kanava realizes what has taken place in his absence, and he agrees to all that. He says, yes, whatever you have done, it's not wrong. You could have waited for me, but then, okay, I agree, and I give you permission. I mean, I am not angry with you, because he is a good king, he is dharmika king, and therefore let your marriage be fruitful. And then she also seeks his Ashirvachana, that Dushyanta, may he, stick to his dharma and viveka in whatever he does, and and he says that you are going to give birth to a Chakravarti Sarvabhauma son. Through his Antarjnana, he realizes all that. And then 3 years she bears the Garbha, okay? And after 3 years, she gives birth to this child, the male child. The child grows in the hermitage. Till then, nobody bothers, nobody even gives any or sends any feelers to the Rajadhani nearby, Nobody bothers. Dushyanta, of course, has forgotten. He never sends any Chaturanga Sainya. And here also, from Kanava's ashrama, nobody goes to the capital city, or 3 years the son is not born. But even after he is born, till 6 years, he grows to 6 years, and then he is fighting with the animals and the cubs of the lion and this and that. And therefore all the Ashramavasi people, they name him Sarva Damana, because he is able to control even the wildest of the beasts, even the lions, the very cruel and the what you can say, the prey animal, he won't even leave like that, right? But even the lion cubs, he is able to control and play with them, 3, 4 cubs, So he is Sarvan Damayitum Alam iti Sarva Damanaha. He is able to control all of them, and therefore they are all calling him Sarva Damana. When he becomes 6 years, and then Kanava decides that, no, not 6 years, he becomes 12 years now, 12 years. From 6 years he has been controlling the lions and all, and he is named Sarvadamana. And then Kanava sees that Kanava would think he become 12 years, and Kanava wants to send her to Dushyanta, to the capital, saying that, Narinam Chiravaso hi bandhaveshu narochate. After marriage, a girl staying with her parents, staying with her own brothers and parents, is not appreciated in the society. Society doesn't approve of that, and therefore I want to send you. That is reason number 1. Reason number 2, it is high time Sarvadamana gets Yavarajya Abhisheka. He should be declared as Yuvaraja, the heir apparent to Dushyanta, and with these 2 motives he sends Shakuntala, and she comes to Dushyanta's court, okay? She comes to Dushyanta's court and asks him and tells him that this is your son, you had come there 12 years back, and I waited for you to send your Chaturanga Sena, but you didn't send it. So now here I am with my son, accept him as the Yuvaraja and as your heir apparent. And Dushyanta Smarannapi abravit na smarami iti. Mahabharata says, Smarannapi, though he remembers who she is, Smarannapi abravit, he said, na smarami iti, kasyatvam dushtatapasi. Who do you belong to, O dushtatapasi? He calls her a wanton lady, punshchali. He accuses her, and you are doing some vyabhichara somewhere, and you want to impose your son as my son, and you have come here. Like that he accuses her. Gachava tishtava kamam yadva api ichchasi tat kuru. You may go, you may stay here as a servant. Whatever you want to do, you may do. I am not liable, I am not, bound to accept your son as my son, because you are punshchali and all that. So she tries to, convince him through various ways, but he is not ready to accept her as his son. She accuses the king, in chapter number 75, so many accusations. Shakuntala accusing her husband Dushyanta in some 50-100 verses, so many verses. And then the Purohita comes forward and says that till her, let her stay with me for a while, and we will explore the things further. What are the explorations? That there is a foretelling that you will get a Chakravarti Putra, so we will examine the chinnas on the hands and feet of this Sarvadamana. If he bears all the chinnas, all the hands and the toes at Chakra, then we can accept her. But then before that, there is an aerial voice. No, the Purohita doesn't come here. Purohita comes in the Katthahari Jataka, Padma Purana and Shakuntala. Here, when she accuses him like this, there is an ashariridi vak, an aerial voice, and that aerial voice says that this is your son, bhartavyaha ayam tvaya. He has to be nourished by you. Bhartavyaha ayam tvaya, and therefore he should be named as Bharata. So Sarvadamana is the name given by the Ashramavasi people, and Bharata, this suggestion comes from an asharirini vak, the aerial voice. Bhartavyoyam tvaya yasmat tasmat bhavatvayam bharataha. And then he accepts, after that aerial voice says, he accepts and then justifies why he behaved in the manner which was so very unpredictable for him. Dharmika king like Puruvansha Raja, Dushyanta, he shouldn't have behaved in the manner in which he behaved. But then he says that if I were to accept you on merely what you said, the people in the darbar, in the assembly, would accuse me, they would criticize me that, oh, the king is, he doesn't know the dharma and all. So anybody would come and claim that she is his wife and the son is his son, he would go on accepting. That should not happen. And secondly, you as my wife should get a clear 100% certification from some divinity that you really are wedded to me. And therefore, I deliberately did all that. I apologize you for all that criticism which I used for you, like Punshchali and Vyabhicharini and Dushtatapasi, all these bad things which I used. For all that I apologize very deeply. But Tvatshuddhyartham maya etad vicharitam. This is ultimately to get the certificate of purification from all the people around. Otherwise tomorrow anybody would be tempted to come here and declare, and I would accept, then my harem would be full. It's not like that, but then you should be beyond doubt. You should be declared as my wife by some divinity, some intervention of some supernatural element. So that is there in the Mahabharata. So the story of the Mahabharata, if we have seen till now, Dushyanta meets Shakuntala. He listens to the story, the birth story from Shakuntala's own mouth. Kanva has gone only to fetch some fruits, and during that time he does his work and goes back without waiting for Kanva at all. He is apprehensive of Karna's curse. He is very afraid of Kanva, and he leaves his wife to the mercy of Karna and leaves her away. So as a hero, whatever qualities we expect from a Puru king, Paurava, we don't find so many qualities, though Shakuntala has been telling that he is dharmika, he is vivekavan, and he is prajahita daksha. There are so many adjectives coming in the Mahabharata itself. But his behavior towards Shakuntala, and especially when Shakuntala comes to the court, even that time, whatever behavior and whatever conversation takes place, that is hardly attractive. That is hardly attractive, number one, and that is hardly justifying the behavior both by Shakuntala and Dushyanta. Even, like a very, the demonaire of what you can say, typical Sanskrit Naika, Sanskrit drama Naika, Shakuntala, she doesn't behave in that manner what is expected of her, and Dushyanta of course doesn't behave in the manner of a Dhirodatta hero. Ridya, in the introduction she said that he is a Dhirodatta hero. Normally the heroes are of four types: Dhirodatta, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Shanta, and Dhirodhata. Dhira is, steadfastness has to be there in every Sanskrit hero. The hero is of four types. Dhairya has to be there. In addition, there is Udattattva, the nobility, not only by birth, by virtues, by qualities, by behavior. Udattattva. Then Dhira Lalita. Lalita, obviously the person, the king. All these are like, mostly the king is the hero. Only in like Charudatta, Mritchakatika, etc., it is Vaishya, Charudatta as the hero. Mostly it is the king. So the king is, like what? A connoisseur of arts like Udayana, like Agnimitra, Lalita Kala. And therefore, the Lalitya comes along with Dhairya. It is Dhira Lalita. Dhira Shanta, very calm, quiet, very tranquil at heart and speech. Like again Charudatta or Jimuta Vahana in the Nagananda of Harsha. So these are only one or two examples. Gine chune udaharan hai Dhira Shanta. And Dhirodhata, Audhatya, the arrogance, the prudence and the arrogance, both along with Dhairya, and that is Bhimasena, that is Ghatotkacha in the Madhyama Vyayoga, that is Duryodhana. So Audhatya, right? So Dhirodhata. So four types: Dhirodatta, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Shanta, and Dhirodhata. Rama of Bhavabhuti is Dhirodatta. Dushyanta of Kalidasa is Dhirodatta. But Dushyanta of Mahabharata is not Dhirodatta in the terms of Sanskrit dramaturgy, right? So that is the hero. So these are the 4-5 things in which the story, which has been borrowed by Kalidasa from Mahabharata, depicts all these things. And when we now read the original Shakuntala, will come across vast of difference. There is so much of difference, at every step there is a difference, every step. And how that difference is highlighted, how it enriches the beauty and the relish, the rasaswada of the drama, we'll see next time. But before that, there are two other sources also. Now I think the time is running, it's almost 10:30, 2 minutes more. So there are two other sources. One is definitely a source, and the other may be a later version than Kalidasa. I will just name these two here. Today we saw only the Mahabharata. Of course, our main source is Mahabharata, and we have to compare and contrast Kalidasa Shakuntala with Vyasa Shakuntala. That is number one. The number two source is Padma Purana, Svarga Khanda. There is a story of Shakuntala, and even her Anasuya and Priyamvada with names, the friends, they also appear in Padma Purana, Svarga Khanda. We'll see it next Sunday. And there is another source, and that is a Jataka story that is given by Gajendra Gadkar. In other editions, you don't find this story. It is called Katthahari Jataka. Katthahari Jataka, that is Kashthavahana Jataka. So this is the Jataka story of Bodhisattva that may have preceded Kalidasa. Mahabharata obviously has preceded, because Mahabharata has inspired Kalidasa, as he has drawn his other stories, from the epics. Raghuvamsha, for example, is based on Ramayana, like Kumara Sambhava is based on the Puranas, Vikramourvashiya again from the Rigveda to Mahabharata, and Malavikagnimitram is more of a historical poem. So mostly all his works are based on one or the other epics or the Puranas. So Padma Purana is the third source. We are not quite sure whether Padma Purana, what is the, len den, who borrowed from whom? Is it Kalidasa borrowing from Padma Purana, or Padma Purana borrowed the story from Kalidasa? We can't decide, because the name Purana is Purana, very ancient, but there are many Puranas. If you see the language and some of the customs and some of the historical events depicted in that, many of them have been redacted time and again till 10th or 12th century of the Common Era. Padma Purana may not be that Arvachina, that later, but still, it again all depends upon which era we place Kalidasa in. If Kalidasa belongs to the 5th century CE, as the Gupta period, as many, Mirashi and others, they place him, then maybe Padma Purana is ancient. But if you place him in the 1st century BC, as many others do, the Vidisha, the Agnimitra, Malavika Agnimitram, and Agnimitra is a historical figure. We have already done Malavika Agnimitram. You can, those who have joined newly, they can refer to the Malavika Agnimitram. Some 20-22 sessions have already been there. For 6-7 months I took Malavika Agnimitram, the 5 acts. I have given the historicity of that. You may refer to that for the date. I am not discussing the date here because I already did it during Malavika Agnimitram. So if that is the time of Kalidasa, then Padma Purana is later and Kalidasa precedes Padma Purana. So we are not interested much in the Pauruva Pariya, what comes before and what comes later. We, as the Rasaswada people, we are doing this activity for Sahitya Rasaswada, right? And therefore Rasaswada, what is more relishable, and how Kalidasa has made it all the more relishable for us, that we want to see. So till next time we meet, we stop here now. Thank you. I know this is not for me, this is for Kalidasa and this is for Sanskrit. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.